Welcome to Form Check. Today, we're gonna go over 5 assessments that's gonna help us identify dysfunctions. So, I'm excited to have you guys. All you're going to need today is a tape measure, you're gonna need a camera, and you're gonna need your Form Check tracker. So, let's get to it. All right, let's do it. Okay, so the first assessment we're gonna go through is a posture assessment, okay? So what I want Cody to do is just stand in a calm, neutral position. You're gonna have your hands down to the side. So this is a static assessment that will help us identify any imbalances. So the first kinetic checkpoint I'm gonna take a look at is Cody's ankles. Now, what I'm looking for is if there's any excessive pronation. Also, I'm looking to make sure in the second kinetic checkpoint that his knees are stacked right over his toes. Now, this is a dysfunction that I want you to write and check off. If you see any excessive pronation, bring your knees, there you go. And now you see how his ankle joint drops down to the ground. That's a check mark that we want to make sure that we check. Now, when we go up, the next thing that we're going to look for is, does his knee track over his toe? Also, is there a cave in his knee? I'm gonna have you cave. This is what we call valgus. And we're going to address that and talk about that in the program. And we're gonna go back neutral. Next thing we're gonna look at to see if his knees cave out. Nice. Is his knees now not tracking over his toes? There's another dysfunction that we're gonna address. Great job. Come neutral. So I'm gonna have you turn into a lateral view. The next thing we're gonna check out is his third kinetic checkpoint, which is his hips. Now, his hips are in a neutral position. We're gonna bring that shirt up. Now, is there an excessive curve, which would be an anterior pelvic tilt? I'm gonna have you do that. If you see that there's an excessive curve in your lower lumbar, there's another dysfunction. Now, I'm gonna have you come back to neutral. The next thing I'm looking at is there's a posterior tilt. And tilt. Good. Now you see he's tucking the tail and his lower back is flat and there's no natural curve. That's another dysfunction we want to address. I'm gonna have you relax. Next kinetic checkpoint, we're looking at his shoulders. Does his ear and his shoulder line up? Now, there are dysfunctions which we call is upper cross syndrome. Sometimes our shoulders will roll forward. I'm gonna have you roll your shoulders forward. This is another dysfunction that we want to address as well. I'm gonna have you go back to a neutral position. Now, the next kinetic checkpoint that we're gonna look for is his ear to shoulder. This is now our 5th one. Does his head protrude forward? If his head and his ear is in proper alignment, this is good. And I'm gonna have you put your head forward. Now, this is very common. We call this text neck. So this is another adjusting thing that we wanna fix and come back. Now, I'm gonna have you turn posterior. We're gonna look at the backside. We're gonna check if there's any asymmetric shift happening at his hip. So I'm gonna bring his shirt up. So his hips are in a neutral position. Now an asymmetric shift, go into a shift, would be where our hips are now not aligned. And I'm gonna have you come back. So these are things that we wanna address in our posture. They tell us a lot about your body. Awesome job. Okay, so now our second assessment will be our transition assessment, our transitional assessment. So we're gonna look at an overhead squat assessment. This will let us know how our body moves and if there's any imbalances. So Cody, what I want you to do, you're gonna have your feet hip width apart. You're gonna bring your hands overhead and you're gonna drop down for 3 squats. On the 3rd squat, I want you to hold it at the bottom, okay? And go. What I am looking for, that's 1, any imbalances. 2, last 1, and 3. We're gonna hold. Now, did Cody heel rise in that squat? If so, then I want you guys to mark that off as a dysfunction. Did his knees cave anytime in that squat? And come back up and let you take a break. I know that's a hard position to hold. Now guys, if you found that your knees caved in and there was any excessive pronation happening at your ankle, that is a marker that we want to mark off, okay? Now I'm gonna have you come back down into the squat and go. Now I want you to bring your hands forward. Are your hands falling forward? There's another dysfunction that I want you guys to mark off and come back up. And we're gonna have your trunk fall forward as well. And go. Now, another dysfunction that we wanna look at is if you have an excessive forward lean. Also, usually with an excessive forward lean, our heels will come off the ground and come back up. Great job. So, if you found that you had any of those dysfunctions, please check it off. And we're gonna go into our next assessment. So the next assessment that we're gonna check is internal external rotation at his hip. So Cody, I'm gonna have you sit down on the ground. I want you to place your hands behind your back, give yourself stability and have your knees bent. So what we're looking for is a 90-degree angle. So there's a 90-degree angle from his hamstring to his calf. Now I'm gonna have Cody shift his weight towards the side, bringing his knees towards the ground. Now, I'm gonna have you spread your feet just a little bit, give yourself some space. Now, the assessment that we're looking for, right now this knee is in internal rotation. I'm trying to see if you lack the rotation and the mobility in your hips. Come back the other side and come this way. Great job. So this knee is now in external rotation. This knee now is in internal rotation. I'm gonna have you do this for 10 reps. And go. 1, 2. If you can't bring your knees down to the ground, that is a dysfunction that I want you guys to mark off on your tracker. Good. Any pain? Nope. Good. 2 more. Last one. And awesome job. And stop. Now, our fourth assessment we're going to do is an overhead reach. We're going to look for any type of imbalances at his pec, his serratus, and also his lats. So I'm going to have you lay down on your back. You're going to have your knees, actually going to have you all the way straight out. And now you're going to lay all the way down. You're going to bring 2 thumbs up. What I'm going to have you guys do, you at home, bring and lower your thumbs down to the ground, going overhead. And go. At any point in this assessment, your lower back rises, that is a dysfunction, and come back to the beginning. At any point during this assessment, go back down. You cannot touch the ground, come up. That means that we're tight either in our pec, our lats, or anywhere in that serratus, and come right back to the top. All right, now, if your thumbs touch the ground easily, I want you to tuck them in, and we're gonna go back overhead. Good. Now you see that Cody has a little restriction there. We could have a little bit more of our thoracic extension, and we can also loosen up those lats. And our last test that we're going to do is a dynamic test to test his upper body strength. So we're gonna get into a Davies test. You're gonna need a piece of tape or a marker that is 36 inches apart. You're gonna have your pinky touch the end of each tape. I'm gonna have you go into a plank position. So your hands are gonna be wide, pinkies touching the end of each tape. At this next position, we're gonna shift our weight, touching our hand. So he's going to shift his body. I'm gonna have you shift 1 time, touch, then come back to the starting position and come back to the other side and touch and reset. So we're gonna do this for 15 seconds. You guys at home, you can do this 3 times. 15 seconds straight, see how many times you touch and take a 45-second break after. Once you've done it 3 times, I want you to add it up and divide it by 3 and let me know how many touches that you guys have. An average for males should be anywhere between 23 to 25, and for females, anywhere between 18 to 20. So I'm gonna set the timer. We're looking for stability in the shoulders. And 3, 2, and go. 6, 7, 8 seconds. Stop. Great job. And take the break. And that is the end of your assessment. Now, as you look at your tracker, if there were any dysfunctions, I want you guys to mark them off. So we scale you guys from 1 to 5. 1 meaning that you were not able to do it. 2 meaning that there were multiple dysfunctions. 3, you found 2 dysfunctions. 4, you found 1. And 5, you were completely fine. Guys, it's so imperative for you guys to do this, so don't skip it. I want you at every stage to reassess yourself for the entire 90 days. Awesome job. We're gonna see you day 1. My man.